Hey guys, back with another lesson on creating lines over dominant 7th chords. So we're looking at A7 just for the purpose of this exercise. Last time we looked at the concept of chord tones, the 1, 3, 5, 7, adding a 9 and then adding potentially an 11. The 11 it's okay in a dominant 7th chord, but the 13th and the 9 are the really interesting ones. Then we looked at putting chromatic passing notes between them. So 9 going back to the tonic, 13 going back to the 5th, and so forth. And then just playing straight crotchets up and down the scale, trying to link either those chromatic lines or just the notes of the arpeggio. So what I think we should look at now is the concept of a line. A line is slightly different to a lick. A lick is probably similar to a catchphrase or a statement, as opposed to a line being more like a sentence or a paragraph. They're often longer. They're often made up of quavers, and there is usually an understanding of a placement of stronger beats and stronger notes being put together. Doesn't always have to be the case. I know when I was studying, when I was younger, being confused by this, I'd read in jazz books that you have to put a chord tone on a strong beat. And it's a very simple way of teaching jazz, but it can lock you into sort of sounding very methodical, and your lines might be technically correct, but they're often not very interesting. It can sound really, really hip, putting a weak note on a strong beat, but you've got to be able to control your line. Remember, you control your line, it doesn't control you. And the only way you can control it is with an understanding of the fretboard and theory. So the next thing I want to touch on is the concept of encircling and enclosures. So a very common thing that you get in bebop is where you'll find a target note, and often it happens to be a chord tone, although it doesn't always have to be one. And players like Bird, Sonny Stitt, so forth, will aim to hit that note on a desired beat, and they will enclose around it. So for example, let's look at the 3rd in this case. It's going to be C sharp. I'm going to aim for the 6th fret of the G. A really common bebop sound here would be if you went to the 9th, B, then you go up to a D, which is on the 7th. So it's almost like a rodeo, like you're just trying to sort of get the calf. So we're going B, D, then back to B, and then we're going to walk up C, C sharp. And that's rhythmically very strong as well, and it draws the ear in, because you're sort of hearing a note that is not perfect. It's what classical musicians would call an imperfect consonance. The same is up here. The 4th is technically a dissonance in classical music because it wants to resolve. So that's great for what we've got here. And that implies a 2-5. And then we walk it in. You could also just, if you wanted to do it in a shorter period of time, you could just go like that. So there are a lot of common licks that you hear where guys go up or down an arpeggio, just encircling a note from either side. So you can get, that's called chromatic encircling, because we go a semitone above, a semitone below. Or you could go a semitone below, semitone above. Like that kind of thing. You can get diatonic enclosures. This is a thing that you often hear guys like Joe Pass do, and a lot of sax players, where they'll go a diatonic note above the note you want to hit. So if we're aiming for an E, which is the 5th degree of this chord, we're going to go to an F sharp, then we go back to E, then we go to a D sharp, and then you're going to go to the next note in the arpeggio, which is the tonic. So then we'll go B, A, G sharp, A, and then the next note C sharp, so we get D, C sharp, C, D, and then we get the 5th again. So Joe Pass, you hear this do quite a lot. That kind of thing. Another one that you'll often hear guys do, I did a lick on this a couple of weeks ago, and you can play it in a couple of different positions, is where you will go like that. So So what we're essentially doing is going up to the 13th from the flat 13, then we go to the 9th, back to the tonic, and that's your sequence. And then we go flat 3 to 3, then 13 to 5, then leading note to tonic, then 4 to 3, then flat 5 to 5, then 9 to 1, then flat 3 to 3 again, then 13 to 5, and then you can do an enclosure 2 to 3. Now this stuff here, once you start adding interesting rhythm to this, makes it much more authentic sounding. But you can also enclose a non-chord tone. That can sound really hip. Again, like if I'm going to be playing over an A7 groove, I'm probably not going to just play a dominant 7 chord. I'll probably play a 9th chord. That would be my default chord, and then I might add a 13th as well. So it would sound really hip to enclose to the 9th. So a thing that I might do is, and this would touch on a bit of a bluesy sound, I would go. So it sounds like I'm playing a blues lick initially, but I'm encircling the 9th, and then from there I'll depart. So have some fun with this, and next time we'll go and look at a couple of other different concepts. There's a lot you can do with this stuff to create different lines, and then once you put in other positions, there's a whole new world of things. And it works well with your blues licks and your country licks, so you don't have to just feel like you're entering the world of jazz. It just gives you new horizons, harmonically speaking, and a lot of new ideas when it comes to your creativity as an improviser. And I found that this stuff was quite confusing when I was learning guitar, and I had to decipher a lot of stuff and sort out for myself. So these are just the shortcuts that I have worked out and I hope that you find useful. So hit subscribe. I'm on Facebook with the Zane Banks guitar page. If you got any questions, hit me up there and we can talk theory. All right, take it easy.